For more such videos, subscribe to Jagran Josh and press the bell icon to never miss a new video from Jagran Josh.
So IIM Calcutta gave me a personal mentor. She was very helpful. I got to interact with her a lot. I mean, even though she was in her internship during that time, but still she was very, very helpful. So she shared with me her experience, how she handled different GDs and interviews and all. And also I was involved with the coaching centers. They also groomed me to an extent for GDs and interviews. So I gave a lot of mock GDs. Even for CAT, I gave a lot of mock tests, which is one of the major things if you want to clear CAT.
So GD and interview, I started preparing way from the beginning while I was preparing for the CAT. So I used to read newspaper, read especially the editorial section of the newspaper, which helped me understand how to form opinions about any current scenario that is happening in India, apart from anything happening in the world. And apart from that, having mock GDs and discussing with the people and the peers helped me to prepare for my interviews. And not forgetting that giving good amount of mock GDs and mock interviews.
So my preparation involved reading the newspapers thoroughly, looking up at hot topics for that period of duration, and then going to internet to search more about them, talking to my family and relatives who have more knowledge, let's say specifically about political agendas and business news. So they were one of my greatest source of information to prepare. And then I did a couple of mock GDs with my friends itself, so that really helped me out.
I had this habit of speaking that didn't actually come up in my way, so I didn't actually need to pay much attention in actually speaking. But then I had a lot of thing where I need to get abreast with the recent developments and what's happening in the country, what's happening in the world, what's happening financially, what's happening in the business world. So for all this, I read a lot of newspapers. I made it a habit to read a lot of articles and all. So this is a definitely must do for everybody who's preparing for GDPI. So this is what I did.
The GD and interview process was again a very interesting part because after having gone through the CAT, people tend to get complacent, but we need to understand that that's just half the journey through, and if you don't prepare well for the next part, it really does not make any sense. So even after you have gotten the shortlist or the calls for the interviews, it's essential that you still put in that effort. In terms of the interview, I guess the biggest thing that I'd like to share is that is a time for introspection. That is a time where you should look at yourself and try to answer as to what are the real motivations that are bringing you to a B school. Because apart from some basic technical knowledge about or the general know-how of the business world, I think what's really tested in a GD or an interview is your perspective, your clarity about what you want from your life in the future. So I guess while preparing yourself for the interview, especially I can talk about the IIM Calcutta interview, which I definitely remember very, very distinctly. Rather than testing students on some technical knowledge or something that's very information related, I think IIM Calcutta really wants to know the kind of person you are, how clear you are about your objectives in life, and how clear you are as to what you want from the campus after you've come here. So it makes sense for you to really introspect and try to ask these questions to yourself and be clear about what you want in life. And that being done, I think you should sail through the interviews, especially for IIM Calcutta.
So for the group discussions and interviews, I had to make sure that I'm very, very careful of the current affairs. My knowledge is updated to the level that I know what is going around in the world, what is going around in the nation, what is the history of the IIM that I'm going to interview with, then what are the current topics, what are some of the major topics on which conflicts arise within a mind. So these were the kind of topics that you need to keep in mind when you're preparing for a GD and interviews, and that is what I did for myself.
Interview part, at least in IIM Calcutta, is completely different. So people have a myth that IIM Calcutta's interview is basically mostly based on quant. I think that's still a myth. It's not true. So it's completely about the clarity. How clear are you in doing your MBA? So if you are clear enough that this is the reason why I'm doing my MBA, I think you should get through the interview easily.
So especially after the CAT results, I've started reading newspapers, getting aware of the current affairs that were happening. That is one of the most important part of the GD and interview preparation. So you get knowledge about what to speak in interviews. Also regarding the VAT, the most important thing is the critical thinking ability of a participant. So you need to develop critical thinking by any statement that you look in the newspapers, you need to analyze the pros and cons. You need to try to analyze the pros and cons in each of the statements that you find in newspaper or anywhere. So I started preparing by writing essays. First of all, IIM Calcutta does not have a GD. We have an written ability test. So I started to write at least 2 essays in a day by putting a time limit for essays. Also, I prepared for personal interviews by giving mock interviews to my friends, or I have also approached my institute to have mock interviews.